Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Coffee Moaners. Welcome to Coffee Moaning. Hey, it's Friday, and we're going to have a moan. Thank you so much to all of you who joined my live chat with Harvard professor Avi Loeb last night, talking about interstellar object 3I Atlas. What I do love about this community, what I love about all of you, is there are those moments where you know us so well and we know you so well. And there were a couple of moments there where it was very much like being in the back of physics class, kind of going, but I'll tell you what I did like about the chat was he had a sense of humor. He was also quite ferocious, I thought, about Brian Cox, but in a way, so was I. Brian Cox has pissed me off. And I don't know. I found and find as a scientist his analogies and his energy refreshing. And I think it's really important to remind ourselves. I'm just going off on one again quickly. He hasn't said it is alien technology, but that said, only 3 or 4 hours straight after our chat, I see he's gone and notified that. I love getting the inside scoop on different industry tension. Yeah, I know what you mean, Reese. Yeah, exactly. The internal squabbles and pressures and enmities and and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, we're going to be talking about new news landed only 2 or 3 hours after we completed our 1 hour conversation. It was wonderful. We liaised earlier in the day. We talked about the fact that actually yesterday was a majorly significant day for news about the interstellar object, and then more news has landed. So we're going to talk about that. If you haven't seen it, it's on the channel. Go and check it out. It's an incredibly compelling and just interesting and curious, great curious conversation about something you never know. In about 2 months' time, we'll all be going, fucking hell, let's quickly read what the fuck did Avi Loeb say in that fucking interview. We need to sort out this strange alien at our door. But we're also going to talk about this morning. What are we talking about? It's Friday, so let's have say fun. I mean, we've got some fun bits and bobs. It's Halloween. So no more Prince Andrew. I mean, there's not an awful lot to say other than he has literally had his prince chopped off. But it's significant. I can't think of another time it's happened, certainly not in recent, ever. Has it ever happened? Did it even happen during the Edward, the Simpson, whoever that king was? Was it King Edward and Marge Simpson? Was it Marge Simpson, was it? So no more Prince Andrew. So we're going to have a chat about that. But does the fact that the question I've asked and the poll I've put on YouTube is, presumably in removing his prince title, is this not some tacit acknowledgement of, in inverted commas, potential guilt, alleged guilt? Oh, sorry, is the fan? God almighty, how do you know the fan's on? Good grief. Is it the suggestion? Is there a suggestion in there of? Is that better? Is that better? Is that better? Hopefully that's better. Morning. Who's that? Is that morning, Christopher? Is that better? Marge Simpson. Yeah. Was it King Edward and Marge Simpson? Someone give us a quick yes or no, for God's sake. Hi, Gabrielle. You sound like you are in the wind. Is it gone? Good morning, Mark. Hope you're well. Could hear it. Lol. Yeah. But yes. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon Carter. Okay. So sorry about that. If you haven't, morning, Natasha. If you haven't, go and check out the chat that I did with Avi Loeb, the Harvard professor. Presumably you could hear everything, right? I don't have to go over it all again. So we're going to talk about the prince. We're going to talk about the fact that he's no longer a prince. We're going to talk about the fact that he's just Andrew. Does that mean we just call him Andy? I don't know if I prefer, I don't know. Prince, Andy, Andrew. We're going to, again, I'm no expert, and I've been kind of looking into this since MeTube quite correctly said yesterday we should focus on the Sudan. Awful violence, genocide, terrible destruction of innocent, of the, again, infrastructure, innocent civilians dying in the Sudan. I'm gonna endeavor to give some kind of context and explanation to what is happening there. And unfortunately, when you get to, as I go through it and as you move through it, and once you get to the end of it, you do realize fundamentally at the baseline of Sudan is what really amounts to, it's a sort of civil war of sorts. It's two factions, but I'm going to talk about that with the recent slaughter in El Fasher, Sudanese city, you know, where just thousands of people were killed, hundreds were reportedly killed at the hospital, just countless atrocities being conducted by the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces. So what I'm going to try and do is give some context on that. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. Rachel Reeves's gaffe, has she resolved it? Does it resolve it? She's sort of been helped out a bit in this one. She failed to get a license to be a landlady or a landlord. And at first it looked like she failed to do something, which could come with lots of fines and all sorts of things like that. But then a letter came from the lettings agency saying they'd failed to do it for her. But then you look into the small print of the letter that the letting agency wrote or sent her, and it says they're not duty bound themselves to do it. And then you dig a little bit deeper and you realize actually she was campaigning in her constituency seat for the introduction or the strengthening of licenses for landlords. So I don't know. Do we feel it's just a kind of, oh, I'm sorry, bit of a mistake? We'll discuss that. Kim Kardashian, how dare she? How very dare she? Screaming, well, not screaming, claiming that the moon landings are fake. How dare she? How dare she say that the moon landings are fake? How dare she suggest the fact that, given the fact that we now can't get a better image of an interstellar object than a pixel, and given the fact that we couldn't back in the day broadcast television from one side of the Atlantic to the other. I don't even think they could. Could they do live broadcasts back then? I don't know. I've never really felt it's added up. And I had the great Wallace Simpson. Yeah, I had the great fortune years ago at the Science Museum of interviewing Buzz Aldrin. Now, I'd love to say that he whispered into my ear, "It never happened." But what I did, well, I'll tell you what I think about that, because there was a lot about him that struck me as strange. And this was way before we were all going, oh, they didn't go up there. How did the flag do that? Where did the light come from? Why were they bouncing? What's going on? And as I've just said, 3i Atlas accelerates. But first, an image has been released by the White House suggesting that Donald Trump is healthy. White House, the president is in great health. There's a great selfie of the president looking absolutely fantastic, playing a harmonica. Oh, Joy Duncan, none of us really care. Joy Duncan, come on, get with it. Get with the Friday funk. No one I couldn't give a flying monkey's jollop about Kardashian. It's called an entry point. It's called a springboard. It's called a way to get into a topic. But Kim Kardashian herself. Yeah, I thought he's looking well there, don't you? I think President Trump, his MRI scan obviously hasn't thrown up any irregularities or revealed any kind of things to worry about. So I'm pleased there. I'm pleased that the president has been given an all clear, really. And I've got a couple of moments really with the president. He's claiming that him and President Xi are the bestest of buddies. You went so well. He's a good man. It went so well. I shook his hand for 25 days. I like the cut of the man's jib. But look at this. I just read into the language of President Xi. Is it Xi? Xi? President Xi.
He's ready to meet President. What is it, President Xi? There with an X. 11X.
Mr. President, the President of the People's Republic of China.
What happened?
Good to meet you. Great pleasure to see you again. Good to see you again.
Why don't you look at me?
And we're going to have a very successful meeting.
I might even kiss him.
But he's a very tough negotiator. That's not good.
All right, there, Xi. I love you.
We know each other well.
Mr. President, do you plan to sign a trade deal today?
Could be. We'll have a great understanding.
但是我们会达成很好的
We
理
have a
解。
great relationship. We've always had a great relationship.
我们之间的关系很好，关系总是很好。
She's like, President Xi's just like, get me fucking out of here. Who is this guy? I mean, he's not revealing a lot, President Xi. And Donald Trump's doing that thing which, yeah, you know, ADHD, nervously just talking constantly. Just to be, yeah, we might be able to, I don't know. I think he's great. We might get a deal. He's a tough man. I'm a tough man. We're all tough men. I've got a weird hand. I've got a small hand. Face, I mean, he didn't look overly enamored, Xi. And as I said yesterday, he then walked out of all of these meetings, didn't he? And he said he's such a knobhead, says Don Holland. Say he's a knobhead without saying he's a knobhead. Don Holland, thank you so much. I think that deserves going up on the screen there for eternity, unless YouTube gets completely decimated in the interstellar object impact. Yes, he's a knobhead. Thanks, Don Holland. Brilliant. I don't think President Xi gives a flying fuck. But interestingly, anyway, he came out of all these meetings and he said, let's go and test nuclear bombs. I mean, lots of conspiracy theorists are saying nuclear bombs. I think President Trump has announced or instructed the rapid training of 500 National Guard people in every state in America to manage crowds. Of course, some people wanting to align that with interstellar object coming into Earth. But we can be calm. It's not, if anything happens with 3i Atlas, it's not going to be like now. Maybe. He's also, Zoe Agnew, he's also a prick face. Well, we're really kind of not pulling our punches today. I suppose it is Halloween. Yeah. And so there we have it. Donald Trump being a prick face or a knobhead. Is that the, yeah. Okay. So let's start with Prince Andrew. I mean, obviously, this is, let me just find the letter that was released by, here we go. Statement from Buckingham Palace. His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles and honours of Prince Andrew. Do you like that? They've removed his style. I think it's debatable whether he ever had style. Prince Andrew will now be known as simply Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. His lease on the Royal Lodge has provided him with legal protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease, and he will move to alternative private accommodation. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. I think that's a pretty clear get out. Get out. Just get out and stand in the hall of, metaphorically, the world, because you're no longer part of this family. Talk about a black sheep of the family. What style? I mean, you know, what, moonwalk? Anyway, I'm not making light of it. So this is serious shit. I mean, I can't help but feel, and this is the question, his out-of-court I mean, I've never really understood how an out-of-court settlement of, what was it, 12 million to Virginia Giuffre. How does an out-of-court settlement ever look like anything other than what it looks like? Do we all? It's weird, isn't it? The world kind of go, well, it did, you know, it's only, well, it was an out-of-court settlement. It's like, yes, okay, by the strict letter of the law, but you reach an out-of-court settlement, don't you, when you're slightly worried about the way it's going to go? He's lost his style, he's lost his prince, he's lost his HRH. For me, this just is further proof that, okay, let's say he's legally unable to be prosecuted for anything because he reached an out-of-court settlement. He for sure, due to this latest development, has knowledge that someone somewhere should be knocking on whatever door of whatever non-lodge he'll be staying in. I mean, who has purview over this? Is it the FBI? Well, we know they're not interested. They don't want anything possibly hitting them. They're like, I don't know who Prince Andrew is. He's a bit handsy. I don't know who he is. You know, Kash Patel's eyes are getting wider and wider by the minute. Wider and wider by the minute. I mean, we can't rely on the FBI at all, least of all in recent news. Charlie Kirk suspect's trans lover Lance Twiggs has gone missing 6 weeks after the political assassination. What the fuck's going on in America? Quietly, behind the scenes, beneath the barricades, this story, this prosecution, and more than likely the alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk is going to be put in a lineup and shot at in terms of the death penalty in Utah. So we can't trust Kash Patel at the FBI to ask ask Andrew, what was it? Andrew William Mountbatten. Oh, he is AI. He's not real. He doesn't exist. That's, you know what? That's a really interesting point, Meneers. And that's not crackpot crazy shit. Thanks for that, Meneers, 1998. I always wondered whether he existed in the first place. I really did. And I wonder if we're going to hear anything from Tyler Robinson, the actual shooter. So here are all the headlines. Prince Andrew to be stripped of titles and forced to leave Windsor home. Oh, he's out of the lodge, guys. No more lodge chat for the right-wing media. No more chat about peppercorn rents. He's no longer a prince. He's got no style. Meanwhile, all the while beneath this, and I have to confess, actually, the only reference to the victims is in the royal letter, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, what must never be forgotten in all of this is that really, is there some satisfaction in this for Virginia Giuffre's family? Her book, the revelations, the persistence of her as a victim of abuse beyond the grave has managed to once again, albeit not prosecute this guy, but chip away at the foundations of his exceptionalism and his privilege. I think Nadia said it the other day. The only thing that this guy could do now, Andrew, is come clean, throw the victims some meat and some names and some dish the dirt, because in a weird way, I think as a nation, it will never undo what's happened. It will never undo the lies. It will never undo the deceit, his connections, his involvement, his knowledge. But it would go somewhere. And as a nation, I think we have that capacity, not necessarily to forget, maybe even not to forgive, but to just go, all right, you did at some point, because it feels like at no point has Andrew at any point done the decent thing. At any stage has he done the decent thing. His family have forced the decent thing upon him, but he hasn't. And you know, there could be I mean, if I was, you know, his daughters, just maybe say, Dad, just spill the beans, because actually it would help so many of the victims, and the, you know, several of whom have subsequently passed away. So whilst one can make light and sort of talk and josh and joke, don't forget, right at the base of this is part of an enormous, the highest profile grooming gang story that Reform aren't interested in. It's weird, isn't it? Reform, they're only interested in grooming gangs that are done by people of color. They're the only grooming gangs that are bad, according to Reform, unless, of course, Reform want to prove otherwise. Unless Reform really do want to focus on all grooming gangs. It's a weird concept, isn't it? Rather than selective grooming gangs. What an awfully grisly way to describe these things. King strips Prince Andrew of all titles, no longer a prince, known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. King will evict his brother from Royal Lodge. Sarah Ferguson must also find her own home. It's not enough simply to strip Andrew of titles, says Virginia Giuffre's family. Epstein survivor would have been proud to know, excuse me, got a runny nose, a pursuit of justice brought down the prince, they added. Andrew stripped of title and will leave Lodge, and there is the letter. There you have it. Things moving in the right direction. So we have him having everything stripped. It's saying he's guilty, says Alison Hump. So surely his next move is straight to the courts. Yes, well, you would imagine so, wouldn't you? You would imagine so. Marat Sparthwater, did he not say originally that he'd go to the US and testify? I don't know if he did. I think, didn't he dodge it all the way through? Just some news. I want to talk about this story in Gaza, which I just think is, again, another example of how utterly corrupt and broken morally the Israeli government is. This is astonishing. Israel launches a probe into the leak of the video showing troops raping Palestinian prisoner. This is the footage. I think you may have seen it elsewhere on various documentaries of they kind of surround a Palestinian prisoner. I forget the name of the prison. And it's, alleged that he was, I think, raped with an instrument. And so once again, the Israeli authorities are more appalled and more aggrieved at the leaking. I'm not laughing. I just can't believe it. At the leaking of the footage. They want to know who handed the footage to the press, because they describe it as creating a blood libel. They don't ever take responsibility for the behavior they conduct. They don't ever acknowledge that what they've done is wrong. They talk and they are judgmental and they are angry about people having a response to what they do, which again speaks to this really perverted, perverse, odd, medieval, barbaric concept of being the chosen people. There's got to be something wrong when the phrase "we are the chosen people" is threaded through government policy, foreign policy, and the treatment of the Palestinians, the chosen people. You can't. I mean, the very title or the very sentence, "the chosen people," screams apartheid, screams oppression, screams colonialism. So I just wanted to flag that up, that, things aren't silent, things haven't stopped. The aid isn't going in. The machinations behind the scenes of getting this Gaza Riviera on its feet is still at work. It feels quiet. Let's not forget, only 3 or 4 days ago, Netanyahu pulled himself out of a court hearing in his corruption case to bomb Palestine, bomb Gaza. Yet again, the West Bank still being annexed. More and more barriers and roadblocks and gates being constructed. But it's not being carried, it's not being covered by the mainstream media. And in a weird way, there's a more sinister silence to things as things carry on. The oppression, the constriction, that, we all understood. You remember when you were at school and you studied medieval warfare? I don't know if you remember this. Maybe you didn't get it. How forts work. And there was always, and they'd be like, and there'd be the trebuchet, was it? Or the, all these weird kind of medieval things that would fire things. And then, you'd have the holes where they pour oil down and the portcullis and all that bollocks. Well, just remember all of that, because, Israel engages in using the most modern technology in the bluntest of ways, i.e. so take everyone out with remarkably powerful bombs. But they also engage in some of the most medieval tactics known to man, which is besieging, occupying, surrounding, poisoning water, removing, destroying salination plants, raised earthing agricultural land. So there don't need to be bombs going in and the awfulness of what we got used to, or have got used to, of seeing children pulled out of wreckage. Though that happened this week, let's not forget that. There is a constant tightening constriction of the Palestinians' fate. And, for all of those of us who are activists, of course, translating that into a digestible headline or an understandable headline, or even a headline that can muscle its way through the rest of the news, is quite hard. But one keeps one's eye on it. One understands that when it goes quiet, it hasn't stopped. So it's really important to remember that, guys. And just little, stories like this. Wow. There's not an issue with the fact that the Palestinian prisoner and many others have been raped. The issue is that people know. Who told people? Who got the material out? Who leaked the videos? Do you remember when Netanyahu said this egregious insult, or this when he said this egregious, it's an egregious act? I was like, what? Yeah, the fact that people are starving. No, the egregious act was accusing Israel of starving them, not the fact. That was, for him, the egregious act. Stunning, shocking, and depressing all at once. So I'm just tidying up my board here. I just want to play you this clip, just sticking with Gaza for a minute. This is a podcast. I think the guy is from the Telegraph. Some chap. Oh, he got a little bit kind of trigger happy, I think, on Twitter about NADS. He was Jake Wallace-Simons, I think his name is. Jake Wallace-Simons. I think he's editor of the Jewish Chronicle. But he's also supposedly a serious leading journalist at the Telegraph. Really fancies himself. In fact, I think he was the one who wrote the article about this is the guy who's really threatened by Greta Thunberg. Anyway, Jake Wallace-Simons writes for the Telegraph. Oh yeah, you know, a mainstream media outlet. Yeah, it's not jaundiced. It's not privileged. It's not influenced. No. But Jake Wallace-Simons is also editor of the Jewish Chronicle. He does a podcast. And this is the weird thing about supporters of the Israeli regime, supporters of the genocide, advocates for the way in which Israel has conducted itself towards the Palestinians. They have no worry or shame. And it's almost like it trips out of them how they reveal to the world not only their intentions, but also what they've done. I mean, it speaks to, again, the fact that there was so much footage, wasn't there, being uploaded on social media of IDF soldiers relishing and enjoying the destruction and genociding of Gaza. Well, in this is a clip from this podcast run by Jake Wallace-Simons, not an independent journalist, therefore not a journalist, because he is skewed in one direction when it comes to this topic. He's interviewing a former Mossad operative, officer, member. Listen to this, and listen to what this Mossad guy says, and just listen to how he says it. This stuff just trickles out of these people.
Gaza.
Surprises?
Yeah.
You mean intelligence surprises?
Pages, walkie-talkies. Do you know how many treated equipment do we have in these countries? You don't. I do.
You mean booby-trapped equipment?
Not only booby-trapped.
And spying?
Manipulated equipment. All right?
In which countries are you talking about?
All the countries that you can imagine.
And not Gaza?
Not Gaza.
Nothing in Gaza at all.
Did you see that? If we had it, I mean, we knew something about them coming. Something, right? I would have sold them everything. Just everything. I mean, you can't imagine the quantity when I have invented that method. That was in 2002 to 2004.
The pager method.
The manipulated equipment method. Okay? We have already used it. Manipulated equipment in Second Lebanon War. Some of the elements were speaking to us.
How did you use it?
Want a glass of water?
We can get some brandy.
He can tell you, but he didn't.
I know it's an early morning in London. I mean, I don't think that is the case. But how did we do it? I tell you.
Oh, let's have a chuckle. Let's have a chuckle about killing people. Let's just have a really nice chuckle about killing people. So what he's saying there is, we haven't just compromised pages. We haven't just booby-trapped and got spyware and pages. We've got booby-traps and spyware and equipment in countries you couldn't even imagine. Probably here. Do you remember that moment Netanyahu held up a Samsung phone and said, "You're holding Israel"? Okay, so bear that in mind. Turn your phone off once every day. Doesn't completely eradicate the possibility to be, but just do it. Just as a matter of course, just do it. So he says that. But did you hear the other lie? The other reveal, but it's a lie. But in the lie, it's such an obvious lie. There was a reveal. Did you hear the other reveal in there? So the most sophisticated intelligence agency in the world that conducted, we said it was a completely, conducted the pager bombing of Hezbollah in Lebanon. He claims and tells us proudly over a glass of water and, be careful what you wish for, tells us that this sort of technology is in many other countries around the world. And I felt very much what he was saying there in sinister Bond villain style was, don't just think it's Hezbollah and Iran and places like that. It's not just pagers. So he's got this around the world. the other thing he said was Jake Wallace-Simons thought he was helping him out, this so-called. He said, but not in Gaza. Pull the other one. Why wouldn't they have it in Gaza? Now, two things there. Either they don't have this tech in Gaza because they didn't want it in Gaza because, be careful though, perhaps they wanted something to happen somewhere along the line. I don't know. Perhaps there was or they precisely do have the technology and the means to get the technology in there, but they need to say that they don't have it in Gaza so that they can explain the enormous security breach on October the 7th that even Avi Loeb referred to himself as an Israeli astronomer yesterday. That the intelligence agency must have surely known that the attack was going to happen. Surely. But the one part of the world which is an existential threat to Israel, where they don't have this technology to spy on and blow people up. No, we didn't have it in Gaza. What an absolute fucking joke. Do you see what I mean? And they're sat there primed up, ruffling their feathers, pushing their kind of, glass of water. Oh, what, like that? You don't bomb up. Oh, you're blowing people up. Everyone's spying. Oh, what booby traps? Oh. But not in Gaza. Not in Gaza, no. What, the place where you have for a year, ever and a day, felt an existential threat from Gaza. You haven't used this tech in Gaza. It's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. It's not because they would have had to elect. They can get people. They've got all these fucking people. They've got these gangs running. They can get anything. The point is, they could or couldn't get it into Gaza or not. They just don't want whether they have it in Gaza or not is irrelevant. But they have to say they don't have it in Gaza, because otherwise, how could they have not known about October the 7th? They're all such morons. They're so moronic. There's Jake Wallace-Simons from Telegraph. Jake Wallace-Simons, yeah. Well, I've got real integrity as a journalist. Yeah, I attacked Greta Thunberg. Anyway, moving on. So I promised you a bit of a primer or a kind of context on Sudan. Obviously, the news this week, as I said, they killed civilians, this is The Guardian, in their beds. Chaos and brutality reign after the fall of El Fasher, which is a city in Sudan. Here is a map of Sudan. At the bottom, you've got a globe, and you can see it's sort of in the northeast part of Africa. The green area, or the kind of turquoisey area, is the Sudanese armed forces, and the orange area are the rapid support forces. And then you've got sort of other areas that are pro one side. So you can see it's a kind of civil war situation. So I kind of went about trying to give you some context, because I know that you're going to see a lot about this, because it's just awful. So Sudan is Africa's third largest country. As you can see on the map, it's south of Egypt, and it borders the Red Sea. So who are fighting? So these two groups, the Rapid Support Forces and the Sudanese Armed Forces, these are two loyal, powerful two powerful armies that were run and are run by two men who were rival generals. I've got their names here. The Sudanese Armed Forces in blue is run by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, who is in effect the country's president. His deputy, someone called Hemeti, is the leader of a paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces. So the RSF, you'll hear that referred to. The RSF is in orange, and the Sudanese Armed Forces are in blue. So let me just pull this down just for a moment. Now, in terms of this year, it was April the 15th, shooting and fighting between the two groups started in April the 15th this year. But tensions have been building for a long time as these two rival generals. So they're two rival generals of two rival armies. They kind of worked together when they conducted a coup back in 2021. But apparently they just don't get on. They don't like each other. I'm not too sure, and I've done a bit of digging, what are the nuanced differences between the two groups? I mean, one, the Sudanese Armed Forces sort of gains from, in a sense, feeling like and sounding like the official army of Sudan, run by one general, and the other group, the RSF, are a sort of insurgency group. As you can see from the map, They don't have as much control of the country. And so they're the ones who are kind of, are conducting, or certainly conducted, the attack on El Fasher. I think what's shocking about this, as was shocking about Gaza, is the severity and extremity of the violence. It's just awful. So you've got these two rival armies with two rival generals essentially jockeying for, competing for control, and caught in the middle are populations, civilians within all these cities and towns and villages in camps. And of course, who are the major victims in any conflict, as we see in Gaza? Innocent civilians. The rivalry runs back a good, a long time. It runs back into the previous dictatorship of Omar al-Bashir. He was a dictator in Sudan for 30 years. And the rapid support forces, they used to be called the Janjaweed militias, and they were used by the former dictator back into the 2000s. You'll remember the reports about Darfur, the genocide there. So Hemeti, and the head of the RSF back in the early 2000s, on behalf of the then dictator, he was one of the lead. He's therefore the leader of one of the biggest militias. Was involved in all sorts of appalling atrocities that saw an estimated 2.5 million people displaced, 300,000 at the best guesstimate killed back in the 2000s around Darfur by the leader of the rapid support forces. Again, just to remind you, the rapid support forces are the ones occupying the orange here. So it's weird. So whilst the two leaders of each of these armies, they kind of cooperated, they kind of worked together to kind of almost ensure that Sudan had democratic elections of sorts when they overthrew the dictator back in 2019, but essentially came to loggerheads, have split apart, and have fallen into these two factions. But what makes the whole conflict even worse, a little bit like, and I am going to draw a parallel here, a little bit like how Israel is backed by America and Britain and other Western nations, and Hamas has been supported by Iran. There are other countries behind these militias, or trying to get involved in these militias and in these groups. And of course, this isn't comprehensive, and this isn't complete, and this is kind of, I've just kind of pulled together I've tried to pull it together in the most kind of digestible fashion. I mean, I was trying to see if there was any kind of religiosity issue between the two organizations, and I'm not entirely sure what that makeup is. It feels like it's almost like, do you belong to my army? I mean, it's very much loyalty to this general versus loyalty to that general. But so this is simplifying it. There'll be infinitely more nuance to this, but this is just to give some kind of context and some kind of grab to it. In terms of the countries behind these organizations, though they deny it, there's a strong suggestion and strong evidence that United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia are behind the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces. Though a lot of kind of commentators on the conflict say that Russia is looking for a base there. Could there be involvement? Was it in Sudan that we discovered that British manufactured weaponry that had been sold to the UAE were involved? So you have UAE, United Arab Emirates, Saudi involvement, tacit, suggested. They deny it. It's very much felt and known on the ground that this is the case. And it is about pillaging and taking control of a country that is, once again, mineral rich, gold rich. It's an appalling potential conflict, a civil war that's being kind of fed, nurtured, and fueled by the greed and the overreach of other wealthy nations. And in a weird way, that sort of there sort of was a religious split, says Maya at the start, but it's very much devolved into simple tribalism over land and wealth, and that's what comes through all of the kind of stuff I was looking into in research. It's as tribal and as wealth orientated as that, and it's being aggravated, and it's being agitated, and it's being fueled, and it's being kind of furthered and prolonged by the involvement and the arms supplying of other countries. who really, one can only assume that the reason there's a desire to control this country is because of its rich assets, gold being a major one, but also its access to the Red Sea and things like that. So you can see that if anyone is backing the rapid support forces in orange, you've got an enormous battle on your hands to reach all the way across the Nile towards the Red Sea. So this is hideous, you know, and what's happening in this conflict is rape is just, you know, the use of rape as a tool of weaponry and aggression and war. You know, the burning of villages, the starvation, the besieging of cities. Al-Fasher is just the latest in just total horror. The UN leaders have condemned the horrifying mass killings in Sudan. Rapid support forces in Al-Fasher, the Sudanese city, descended into a darker hell following the RSF, Rapid Support Forces, takeover of the city at the weekend. Ethnically targeted killings in recent days prompted the UK, as the UN penholder on Sudan, to call an emergency session. The situation is simply horrific. In the past week, the UN Human Rights Office has documented widespread and serious human rights violations in and around Al-Fasher. These include credible reports of mass killings and summary executions during house-to-house searches as civilians have tried to flee the city. It's just awful. And I think, as I said yesterday, the true, yeah, if they take Khartoum, then it's all over. And you can see that's where they're heading to there. You can see in the middle, Khartoum sitting there as it does, I think, on the convergence of it, where the Nile splits off, really. But of course, yesterday, the most appalling development in this is that so much murder and bloodshed has happened that satellite cameras in space could see the blood. You could see blood marks in the desert, in the sand, from space. You know, and one's not drawing equivalence. One's not, and is Munir, Israel, you know, who are the other players in this conflict? That's the big question. Who are the other players in this conflict? It's just awful. It's just awful. So yeah, good. Thank you, Michu, for suggesting that yesterday. It's just horrendous. It deserves and demands our attention and our condemnation. And once again, innocent civilians falling foul of countries that demonstrate zero in having, you know, have zero moral compasses. It's just so shocking. Okay, let's move on. Last 20 minutes or so. I just want to show you this. This is bizarre. Did anyone see this post by Elon Musk? Just quickly. It's Friday. We can deviate, can't we? Elon Musk posted this a couple of days ago. When Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien, wrote about the hobbits, he was referring to the gentle folk of the English shires who don't realize the horrors that take place far away. They were able to live their lives in peace and tranquility, but only because they were protected by the hard men of Gondor. What happened to the nice man who was brutally murdered while walking his dog will happen to all of England. This is a reference to the tragic stabbings at the hands of an Afghani asylum seeker. What happened to the nice man who was brutally murdered while walking his dog will happen to all of England if the tide of illegal immigration is not turned. It's time for the English to ally with the hard men like Tommy Robinson and fight for their survival, or they shall surely all die. Civil war in Britain is inevitable, just a question of when. Now, this isn't to talk about the awfulness of what happened, and it is awful what happened in the stabbing, and it needs to be called out, it needs to be dealt with. You know, every and any stabbing is just appalling. But is this not Elon Musk interfering in foreign matters? Is he not fanning the flames here of potential civil war? Is he not another agitator and instigator of civil unrest? And should he therefore, in some capacity, not have some type sort of action taken against him by a government, no? Or is this just game on? Should this just be allowed? The London Economic says, make no mistake about it, this is inciting violence in the UK after the inflammatory message he gave at the far-right marches in London in September. This should be the final evidence the UK government needs to take action against Musk. The longer the government refuses to act against him, the more they allow Musk to damage our country and put the population at risk. Enough is enough. I was thinking, oh, he's gone quiet. One very curious thing, I mean, he's also gone, he's just been stupidly quiet about the interstellar object. Maybe he's a bit jealous. Maybe he doesn't want to acknowledge that there's possibly alien tech in the solar system because it might be better than his. He's not bored. I know he's not bored. His underlying strategy, but what is his underlying strategy, Meechip? Why does he have a vested interest in generating civil war in Britain, of all places? Or is it just Britain next, and then it'll be the next one, and then he'll move on? He wants a unified one government for the world type situation, doesn't he? I feel. Roxy Voxy, certain Americans on X are positively gleeful at the idea of British civil war. All Zionists, funnily enough. Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? I mean, one can't. What can one? I mean, one has to just look at who are the influences. What's influencing everything at the moment? It's just so shockingly frightening. Okay, let's go towards lighter things. Who believes the moon landings were fake? Come on, let's get into some conspiracy theories, or maybe it's not conspiracy theories. It is depressing, Rose. Let's get into something that's not so depressing. Well, is it depressing? I don't know. Who thinks the moon landings were staged? And if so, stake your claims. Say why. I mean, it does strike me as strange. I suppose, you know, in recent years, we've just and you know, and this is where things like the situation in Gaza is so illustrative. We have been so manipulated. We've been so gullible over the years. When I think back to my nan's generation, very trusting. I don't mean gullible in a kind of stupid way. I just mean trusting and kind of, you know, doff your cap and yes, thank you, madam. Thank you, sir. Your authority. We trust you. It's like more and more people I've noticed are ringing in on the radio at the moment on LBC on various programs. And more radio presenters, whether they be James O'Brien, left-leaning or right-leaning, are perplexed when they say, well, why would you not trust the government? And they seem surprised that more and more people phone in and say, I don't trust the government at all. I think we've gone through a portal where we now no longer trust the government. We can't, and why should we? Just the fact people sort of say, well, we used to, and that was better that way. No, we've just got smart. And it's not a bad thing to not trust your government. It means that then the government needs to perhaps behave a little bit more honorably or transparently, but it can also result in them becoming even more secretive and more controlling. And I think that's what's happening in the West at the moment. In a sense, our liberties and our freedom have allowed us the freedom and the space to go, hang on a fucking minute. This is all, you know, in varying degrees, an elaborate lie. And so when you come to something like the moon landings, it's less about whether they did or whether they didn't. I find it interesting and kind of almost just playful to kind of tiptoe into it and kick it about a bit. Because it's like, it's not beyond the bounds. I mean, again, I don't think any of us are going to be able to say with any certainty, but it's not beyond the bounds. Why would you trust the government, says Farida? I think it was when I saw images of the alien autopsies from the 60s before I was born. So I have never had trust. I find it really hard to believe, says Elaine Denning. The lack of tech back then is all a bit dodgy. I mean, I know. Come on, Mark, we are more savvy these days. Ain't no fool. I agree. No, I'm saying it's a good thing. It's good. I bloody fucking love it. I like the photo, says Edward Bevington, of Stanley Kubrick with the heads of NASA. Google it. I mean, you know, many feel that, is there, am I imagining it? Or again, you just don't know in this AI landscape, whether it's just completely been made up. But did Stanley Kubrick say on a hot mic or off camera somewhere, you know, I kind of staged something, I think there's claims that he did. But there is a suggestion, I saw The Shining recently, there is a suggestion that, you know, there are all sorts of kind of like, if you like, clues and Easter eggs in The Shining as to Stanley Kubrick's involvement in the shooting of fake moon landings, the fake moon landings. And one of those is that the boy, Red Rum, you know, in The Shining has a jumper that says Apollo with a rocket on it. Emma Stable, standard radio, the moon is not that far in terms of radio speed. So MeTube, do you believe it? You're our resident sort of Mekon. I'm curious to know what your take on it is. The moon landing was real, says Roxy Voxy. I watched it at school. I felt emotional, even saying Neil Armstrong's name ever since. Okay, Roxy, let me just ask you this. Did anyone at the time think, hang on a minute, every single live broadcast on television is as dodgy as fuck? And I mean, and they were into the 70s, 80s and 90s. Live satellite link-ups were shit. You used to have to stand with your arm out of a window to get the aerial to work. And then suddenly we had clean footage from outer space when we now can't even take a photograph of an interstellar object. Though, of course, we'll get to that in a minute. We can, we just won't reveal it to the public, which made our Harvard professor last night has made him very angry, understandably so. Sharon Carter, I mean, so who was it who was saying they watched it and loved it and you felt proud, but did you not think, hang on a minute, this is what I mean. This is where cover-ups and the government are so cheeky. It's like they make us feel, oh wow, like a film. It's like, oh, I feel great. You're right. You know, if let's treat it as it was. Let's say it was a moon landing. Oh, this is amazing. This is one big step for man, one giant step for mankind. Oh, but are they just manipulating us? There's a very famous. Well, I don't know if it's that famous actually, because I've never seen it since. What about the cameraman? Bead ALA says. The cameraman that was left on the moon filming the capsule leave it. How did he get off the moon? Or is he still up there? Yeah. I mean, what you've also got to understand is cameras. When I got into the industry 30 years ago, cameras were giant. And you could not, there's no way on earth the kind of camera kit, the technicalities of just getting that footage out, forget getting fucking thing to the moon and then having the power to get off the moon. I don't know. The more you just look at it. Well, now, Michu mentioned something here, which I think is very serious and very important. Well, not serious, but very, very key. This is key. And this is a good point. And I'd like people who think it was faked to answer this. Where is it? I've lost you, Michu. Or Occam's razor. I thought it was Ofcom's razor. I don't know what Occam's razor is. You can't keep a secret with 3 million people involved in the project. Now, I haven't seen that number, but I have read elsewhere that if this was fake, then they would have had to have got the kind of complicit kind of cooperation of about 200,000 people in total to make it work, which does seem odd, doesn't it? It does seem like you would imagine. You would imagine that someone somewhere would have spilt the beans. Who's filming Mark right now? Yes, but we've come so many. I mean, you know, if the fact is true, there's more tech in this than in all the tech that got the Apollo landing on the moon. So, yeah, it's astonishing. Who's filming me? Who is it? Yeah, this thing here. But they didn't have this thing here then. Didn't have anything like it. They couldn't even broadcast. I mean, this is, you know, let's forget the ability to get them to the moon. Let's just talk about, and this is from someone who has spent most of his professional career frustrated at getting footage to fucking land on a screen or be sent or be broadcast. Twice I've done the Cannes Film Festival trying to get tapes and satellite links and We were in a space race with Russia. They would have said, no, that's fake. Well, that's a good point. You think Russia would have pointed it out, unless Russia's was fake too. We don't have the means to return to the moon because we destroyed the data. NASA. Is that what they said? Is that what they actually said? The real mystery, Genie Bottle, is why no visit for 50 years? Well, and the other mystery is really, why the fuck can't we get a good photograph? Or if we've got a good photograph, why won't NASA reveal a good photograph of 3I Atlas? So shortly after my 1 hour chat with Avi Loeb, the Harvard professor, who is, you know, people like Brian Cox are trying to marginalize this as fringe drivel. This guy at Harvard has not said it is alien tech. In fact, I would say he's being overly cautious. He has a rating of 1 to 10, and at the moment it's only at 4. And he talks about it needs to do a number of different things before it starts to go up. So he hasn't said it is. Lots of people who want it to be artificial alien tech, 3I Atlas, have claimed that this is proof of it. But he's not saying it's proof of anything. He's just saying He's listing the anomalies. He's listing the anomalies, and we have a new anomaly. So we had a new anomaly last night. I don't know if anyone noticed. I sort of said to him, well, isn't this really the 9th anomaly? And he was like, yeah. The 9th anomaly is it's coming around the back of the sun and doesn't appear to have broken up into pieces, and it's extraordinarily blue in color, much brighter than it should be, emitting a blue that I don't know if anyone else felt it. He seemed clearly perplexed by, shocked by, not alarmed, but kind of like, whoa, this is strange. And then 3 or 4 hours after our chat on YouTube last night, do go and check it out. It's on the channel. He posted this, and he didn't do this research. This has come from elsewhere. First evidence for a non-gravitational acceleration of 3I Atlas at perihelion. Perihelion means it's at its closest point to the sun. And so what they've noticed is that it has accelerated, or it's moved in a way that could still be explained by either heated up so much that it's outgassed. So imagine you get so hot, like me when I get sweaty, that the expulsion of heat pushes you because it's got so hot. So it could be that, but they won't know that until they can get more kind of lenses on it and telescopes on it. But it could also be yet another sign of propulsion. It could be a sign of propulsion. And at this point, we don't know. But for him and for others, this is another anomaly. This is potentially the 9th, or I would say 10th anomaly. I pushed him. I said, what would make the Avi-Loeb scale go up to 5? But he kind of dodged the question. So we have it coming back. So it's coming round. It's coming sort of out from round the back of the sun. It's not completely hidden by the sun, but because of the glare of the sun, it's very hard for our telescopes to get it. So photographs have been taken by various orbiters of it. But one of the things that's a real issue is if it is just a fancy rock, which it possibly could be, absolutely be just a fancy rock. And I'd have to say, Edward Bevington, I think everyone wants to try and, he says it could be just a fancy rock, but we've got to be curious. We've got to be curious, and we should be asking questions rather than like Brian Cox going, all this drivel. I find Brian Cox fucking annoying. I really do. I watched his documentary on television, and he's so certain about things that no one should be certain about. Because if you're certain about space, then what's the point of space exploration? Surely we're doing it for we're open-minded and open-hearted, right? So anyway, it's coming around the sun. It's very blue. It's and in his analysis, sorry, I thought I had it here, but I don't. Let me just see if I've. And this isn't his analysis, by the way. This is, oh, what have I done? Let me just see if I've got it. Medium. No, hang on one sec. So this isn't his research, but someone else has basically researched the. No, here I have got it here. So live tracker. Sorry, apologies for trying to find the content. The non-gravitational acceleration observed on 3I Atlas might be linked to 3I Atlas getting bluer than the sun. I don't understand why it's blue. There was a radial acceleration and a transverse acceleration, which was recorded or found out in the last 10 hours, and an unexpected change of color. Now, the way in which they're going to be able to prove that this non-gravitational, so basically it's accelerated not through gravity. It's non-gravitational acceleration, which suggests it's in control or it's created that acceleration. But that could have been created naturally, or it could have been created artificially. That's the question. And this analysis here, which is really good, says if anything coming that close to the sun, which is what I said to the professor last night, is likely to lose mass. It's, bits will fall off, bits will be vaporized, and so it essentially will get smaller. So what we're waiting for is over the next couple of days, whatever those cameras are that are up there that found out that it went blue and it's accelerated a bit, they're going to be analyzing whether it's lost 10% mass, or if it hasn't lost any mass, if it hasn't got smaller, and it's simple science, this bit, I can understand this. If it kind of outgasses and goes, oh my God, it's so hot, and farts. Imagine the interstellar object. It's so hot, it farts. So it pushes it away, but so it loses all that hot air. So it gets a bit lighter and smaller. If it hasn't got smaller, then we are in, I think, probably interesting territory. Now, to go back to the question that Nadia asks and the girl asks all the time, this doesn't necessarily mean this thing is heading to Earth. None of this conversation is about this necessarily impacting Earth. But I do think there will be interesting questions to be asked. If it is in some way, it might, I mean, as he said last night, it may have zero interest in us. We may be utterly irrelevant, like ants in a crack in a pavement. But my God, I'd like to know. And Janina M asks a simple question: where the fuck are the photos, NASA? NASA have photos. Their high-rise camera, the Mars high-rise camera, has photos of this thing, and they have not been released. Now, if you don't want conspiracy theories, if you don't want people engaging in drivel, and I would like to stress that I don't think this professor is, though lots of commentators are, show us the photos, dudes. And let's not forget, if NASA are being so tight-lipped and holding these photos close to its chest and not sharing them with the scientific community, questions of why clearly kick in. And then you start asking questions, connecting it all back to the moon landings. How can we trust NASA? NASA is just another tool of the fucking state. So we'll find out more. So that was, you notice we didn't even mention Kim Kardashian. Mark Holderness says it's aliens and they are trying to get here as fast as they can before the 2029 election to save us from Farage. Wouldn't it be lovely? Wouldn't it be lovely if they just arrived with a ladder and said, look, all the nice people, come on, let's leave all these other fuckers down here just to have a crack. Blue shift is a thing, says Mayor. Celestial objects moving towards you do look blue. The Doppler effect means light waves are compressed as the object moves towards us, making it look blue. I did ask him whether it could be some kind of emission gas burning, but he seemed to feel that there was no other sort of precedent for this blueness. But we'll find out. Is the US government shutdown affecting NASA? Yes, NASA, go to the NASA website. It says it's closed. Can you believe it? Okay, two final fun bits and bobs. I just want to play you this. This is a wedding that happened in the Shires, or where they shot the Lord of the Rings. It's weird, we're going back to Lord of the Rings. But look who pops up at this surprise wedding, or surprises them at this wedding. You know.
Oh my God! I don't want to take attention away from you. Yeah, sure.
So this is, if you're listening, this is Elijah Wood from The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. Gate crashes a wedding happening where they shot The Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, look, isn't that sweet? Imagine, is it he played Frodo? Imagine Frodo just turns up at your wedding. Dirty hobbitses. Now, I want to give a shout out to a chap called Jonathan Pearson. Jonathan Pearson is the partner of Yiljan, who is a producer on, or the producer on Nadia's Loose Women. And her husband every year goes to extraordinary lengths to create Halloween images, footages, setups, scenes. And he's great. He's a filmmaker. He uses green screen. He uses all the kits and tools and toys of the trade to create his imagery. And on their Instagram, or on Yiljan's Instagram today, she's posted the images that her dear husband Jonathan has created. And look at these. These are his kids. These are on Instagram. So look at that. Look, and look at the bottom. Look at them way down the bottom there. And obviously it's an image. He's recreated an image from Stranger Things. There's one of their children there. And look, there's another. I don't know if that one's actually from the film, maybe, but that one isn't. That's family. And look, and here are all the behind the scenes shots of how they went about it. The green screen in the garden, the makeup. I've got a feeling maybe there's going to be more footage. Look, there's the camera. Then they're pushing it into the edit system. Oh, I just love it. Halloween. So is anyone doing anything extraordinary like this? Green screen on the floor. What a brilliant idea. Anyone doing anything like this for Halloween? That's brilliant, Jonathan. If you're watching, that is just absolutely sensational. Best dad ever. Yeah, absolutely brilliant, Mudshire. Isn't it brilliant? Mark, you have a blue beam on your glasses for reader note. Have I? Oh, yeah. Maybe that's why there's blueness in there. Brilliant, isn't it, Rosemary Mahita Girl? Anyway, I just love that. I just loved how inventive and how creative and innovative That is. Nope, just popping out to see my neighbours, says Clodagh. Okay, well, just make sure you don't get scared. And let's just hope that, you know, the 3i Atlas doesn't crash through our doors tonight. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of the day. We'll see you in the morning for Saturday Moaning and the Curly Cooks of Croydon. And something else will be landing later too. But have a lovely Friday. Enjoy your Halloween. Trick or